Okay, dads, let's go ahead and get started, guys. Now, some of you've already let me know how uncomfortable you were in last week's meeting. So tonight, we're gonna try to respect each other's boundaries.
What?
Tonight, we've also got a guest with us, David. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm David.
What's up, David?
How many kids do you have, David?
None, at least not at the moment. My wife is pregnant, and she should be delivering any day now.
That's great. Super.
Great.
Who'd like to go first? Anyone? Anyone?
I'll go.
Perfect. Todd? Yes.
My daughter and I went to the mall, and she said she wanted to take the stairs to the second level. And I said, I don't trust stairs because they're always up to something.
Todd, I'm sorry that happened. I encourage you to try to resist the urge to make jokes like that.
My turn? Okay. Can I go? Okay. Yesterday, actually, my daughter got home and she asked me how my day was. And I said, well, a guy tried to sell me a coffin, but that's the last thing I need.
Oh, Jerry, that joke was dead on arrival.
Because it's the last thing I need.
David, how about you?
Oh, I didn't say
This is a
anything.
safe zone. Just jump on in.
Yeah, I guess I'm just scared of being a dad. I'm afraid I'm gonna start telling bad jokes just like my dad.
Well, it might be in our nature. We can fight against it.
Hey, speaking of nature, I tried to catch some fog yesterday. I missed. M-I-S-T.
You're a monster. This is where the boundary is.
I'm done.
This is where you are.
Hello? Really? Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, I'll be right there. That was Julie. Her water just broke. I guess the baby finally ran out of womb. I'm gonna be a dad.
Don't you think you should be going?
Oh, yeah.
So I told my wife she drew her eyebrows too high. She seemed surprised.
Welcome to Lifepointe Online. I'm Joel.
And I'm Austin.
And we're so glad you're here with us. We just saw some awesome dad jokes. Austin, you have been a dad for a while now, so I know you got some. You want to hit me with some dad
The
jokes?
last 4 years have taught me anything, Joel. It is dad jokes. So let me lay a few on you.
Okay.
Here. So here's the first one. Why don't eggs tell jokes?
You got me.
Because it cracks them up.
Cracks them up. That's not
Oh,
good.
that's nothing though. Here, you want a really good one.
Yeah,
Here's one.
hit me.
Okay, how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh?
8 is too obvious. How many?
Tentacles.
10 tickles.
Oh man, here's the best one.
Okay.
It's my favorite over the years.
All right.
Here it is. What do you get when you mix an elephant and a rhino? It's an elephant.
Is this appropriate for church? Austin? Is this something you tell your 5-year-old or your 15-year-old? Anyway, we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out.
All right, party pooper, what do you want to do?
Well, here's what I want to do. I want people to engage today, and you can do that by going to our chat. If you're watching in chat mode, we have chat where you can interact with the service. We also would love for you to jump into a prayer room. If you need prayer today for anything, we would love to pray with you. And I also want to tell everybody about our family warm-up that happens 10 minutes before each service. So if you missed it this week, make sure you check out our family warm-up. And the next thing I want people to do is worship. We're about to do that in just a second. But you know what? Speaking of, what kind of fish likes to sing? A tuna fish. A tuna fish.
That's
See what I did
bad.
there? Happy Father's Day weekend, everybody. We're so glad you're with us again. Enjoy the service.
Well, welcome to Lifepointe Church. We just want to invite you to worship with us wherever you're at today.
There is a sound I love to hear. It's the sound of the Savior's robe as he walks into the room where people pray, where we hear praises he hears faith. sound of the Savior's robe as he walks into the room where people pray, where we hear worship, he hears faith. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise aloud. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise aloud. There is a sound that changes things, the sound of his people on their knees. Awake up, you slumbering, it's time to worship him. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise aloud. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise aloud. And when he moves, and when we pray, where stood a wall now stands a way, where every promise is amen. Yes. And when he moves, make no mistake, the boughs of hell begin to shake. All hail the Lord, all hail the King. Hey, oh, let the King of Glory enter in. Hey, oh, fall down on your knees and worship him. Hey, oh, let his praise rise up, don't hold it in. Hold on it in. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise aloud. Awake my soul and sing his praise aloud, sing his praise
We've seen what you can do, oh God of wonders. Your power has no end. The things you've done before, in greater measure, you will do again. 'Cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can't move. All things are possible. There's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Tell forever on the throne. So why should my heart fear what you defeated? I will trust in you alone, 'cause there's no prison wall you can't break through, no mountain you can't move. All things are possible, and there's no broken body you can't raise, no soul that you can't save. All things are possible. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God, I'll revival. Let hope arise. Death is overcome. You've already won. God, I'll revival. God, I'll revival. Come on, let's not just sing this, but let's sing it out. Let's believe it as we sing. Come on. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble. I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble. I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. The darkest night, you can light it up. You can light it up. God of revival, let hope arise. Death is overcome. You've already won. God of revival. Oh, God of revival. Come awaken our praises, Lord. Oh, have your way, Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble. I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Come awaken your people. Come awaken the city. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out. Every stronghold will crumble. I hear the chains hit the ground. Oh God of revival, pour it out, pour it out.
We're so glad that you're watching today. Hey, we want to know that you're watching today. We want to hear from you. You can fill out a Connect card today for us by just clicking the Connect tab if you see it, or if you don't see it because you're watching in full screen mode, just go ahead and text hello to the number you see on the screen. We just love to know that you're watching, so fill it out anytime during the service. We also want to let you know about our virtual lobbies after our 9:30 and 11:15 services. This is a great place where you can hang out, meet new people on a Zoom call, or maybe just hang out with friends that you miss on Sundays, you can just follow the link that you see now on the screen, or if you're in chat mode, someone will be posting that link right now so that you can jump into a lobby after those services. And finally, if you're new to Lifepointe or you're just now getting to know us as a church, we would love for you to get on a Zoom call with our lead pastor, Donnie Williams, for a thing we're calling Discover Lifepointe. Donnie will tell you a little bit about his story, a little bit about the story of our church, and what we believe in. So if you're interested in that, it happens every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. And we encourage you to jump in, meet Donnie, and get to know our church a little better.
Hey, about 20 years ago, I met a friend named JT who has traveled through life with me ever since. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I got the opportunity at a church I was working at to go and travel to the Middle East and serve a group of people who'd been pushed out of their homes and had nothing to live on. At the last minute, right before we were gonna leave for the trip, I got a list of items that I had to purchase to make the trip possible. And who would you think came through in that moment and bought every single item on the list? His name was JT. And in that moment, I realized the power of generosity. JT's generosity didn't just impact my life, it impacted the lives of thousands of children, of women, and men who would have otherwise gone without. And every single week, when you make a decision to be generous at Lifepointe Church, your impact goes far beyond the things that you see on a screen. Your impact, it makes a difference in the lives of families who need food, who need resources through Operation Feeding Hope. Your impact makes a difference throughout Wake County through ministries like Dorcas Ministries, and your impact makes ministries for children, men, and women all across our county possible. So let me thank you in advance for being generous and making a difference right here and around the world. It matters so, so much. And if you're at home today and you want to give at Lifepointe Church, you can text LP Church to the number on the screen. And let me thank you for doing so.
I didn't grow up going to church, but my parents did send me to weekly catechism class. And as part of that journey, I attended a retreat my sophomore year in high school. And it was there where I met a town fireman. His name was Don. Don spoke to me about a guy named Jesus and his love for me and how Jesus wanted a relationship with me. And I remember thinking, why? Why would anybody love me? And if Jesus really knew me, he'd change his mind. Sadly, that was a conversation I had often in my mind. But the way Don talked about Jesus' love, it wasn't tied to how good I was or about my performance in life. It was about whether I believed that Jesus died for my sins and if I trusted Jesus to lead me in life. And that night, I told Don, I want that Jesus. Now, I wish I could say at that very moment, everything changed. It didn't. I was confident that when my time on earth expired, that I would be with God for eternity because of my faith in Jesus and what he did to make me right with God. But there wasn't a visible change in my life. And it wasn't until 2 years later when I met a follower of Jesus, my now wife Kim, whose day-to-day life was impacted by her relationship with Jesus. Kim gave me a Bible. She helped me get connected to a local church as I headed off to college. And I started to lean on God's power and his truth in my day-to-day life. I was growing spiritually. This was so refreshing because for so long it was all about me, my ability. And to tell you the truth, that was just downright exhausting. Change was occurring, but my previous way of living created some well-worn ruts and grooves in my life. For me, life was good when I was achieving things, when I was successful. What you couldn't see, though, was behind that success was a bunch of fear and anxiety. I learned early on in life, though, when I performed well, it would bring affirmation from others. And that magically seemed to soothe my fears inside, but only briefly. Which was okay because I just start the whole process over and over again and ramp up my efforts. Well, 16 years after making a decision to follow Jesus, God graciously allowed me to wear myself out. He used my burnout and depression to help me examine my heart, to look at what was controlling it, and to begin to change my affections in a way that put Jesus first. It didn't seem logical to me. It seemed counterintuitive, but what I discovered was giving up my control to God led to a place of freedom, a freedom that sustained. God has done an amazing work in me, and he continues to. This side of heaven, I'm under construction, and I love learning to live like Jesus and helping others to do the same. I'm Rob Perry, and this is my Jesus story.
When I first started following Jesus, I went to a college student Bible study. And it was my first few weeks in, and the group leader started out that night saying, hey, all of us tonight, we're going to share our stories of how we got to know Jesus. And I thought, great, I can't wait to hear from these other people. And then he said, Donnie, you go first. I'd never been to a Bible study group like that one before. I'd never really read my Bible before. I was brand new to being a Christian, and I stuttered through it. Now, how would all of you feel on the other side of the camera if I said, hey, take it, it's yours. Tell us about a topic you have little information about. Well, we're in a teaching series called Encountering Jesus. We're looking at episodes in the Bible where Jesus interacted with regular people, and we're considering the impact it had on those people and how it applies to our lives. And today's encounter comes from a man who was suddenly brought into the spotlight and had to speak. With little knowledge, he was asked to speak. Something that would terrify most people. It starts in the New Testament book of John, chapter 9. This is one of my favorite stories from the life of Christ. So picture this. Jesus is walking along. He's with his disciples. He's teaching. He's in conversation with them. And then this happened in John chapter 9, beginning at verse 1. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So picture the scene. There's Jesus, his disciples, and a blind man sitting on the road. He's probably begging. And the thing that they want to know is not how can we help him? They want to know what happened. How did he get this way? It kind of seems insensitive on the part of the disciples. Well, the popular view of God at that time was that if something was wrong in your life or with you, somebody must have sinned to cause it. And then God was punishing you for whatever you did. And because of the incomplete view of God, they were missing it. They were looking for someone to blame. And humans tend to do that when they have an incomplete view of God. They immediately blamed his problems on him, when the reason he was blind was probably simply because his optic nerves didn't develop properly in the womb. But Jesus answers them. And I love this answer in this next verse when Jesus says, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, Jesus answered. This happened so the power of God could be seen in him. With that one statement, Jesus brings a new way of thinking about problems they faced. No longer is it, hey, is it this person's fault? I mean, can you imagine the disciples' conversation after that? I thought it was his problem. I thought it was an easy way to attach blame, but the reality is, it's a way for God's work and power to be seen. Now, what if you started looking at the problems in your life that way? Instead of wallowing in guilt or thinking if they had just done that or not done that to me, but instead taking those hurts and mistakes and failures and fears, and you viewed them as an opportunity for God to show his power in your life. Here's what Jesus is teaching them. In the middle of our problems, there's an opportunity for God to work. Now, when we look out at our world and see the state of it, it's easy to just see problems. It's easy to just see hate. It's easy to just see anger and division. But if you look past that, look beyond it and see God working, see people loving, respecting each other and coming together. It's not always easy, and it won't come without hard work, but opening up and letting God work is always right. Hey, do you have problems in your life? Then you're in a perfect place to see the power of God work in your life. Now let's go back to this encounter. There's the blind man, the disciples who blame him for his problems, and Jesus, and listen what happens next. In John 9, beginning at verse 6, it says, "Then he spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva, and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. He told him, 'Go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam.' So the man went and washed and came back seeing." And because of Jesus, the problem was gone. They came and looked for excuses, and Jesus was willing to show them a new way of thinking. And what if we thought like this? Take my problems, bring in the power of Christ, and big changes can happen in my life. Big ones. And I want that for you. I want that for us. Now he can see, and his problem is gone. But a new problem's about to show up. They put this newly healed guy on the spot. They hand him the microphone, the camera, and they ask him to speak. And here's how it plays out. In John chapter 9, beginning at verse 8, it says, "His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, 'Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?' Some claimed that he was. Others said, 'No, he only looks like him.' But he himself insisted, 'I'm the man.' 'How then were your eyes open?' they asked. He replied, 'The man they called Jesus made some mud, put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see.'" Not, "Hey, you were blind and Jesus healed you. That's awesome. How does it feel to all of a sudden be able to see?" You know, I actually know someone who was blind until he was in his late 20s. He had an experimental surgery, and then he could see. When I found that out, I asked him, "How does it feel to go from blind to sight?" But in this blind man's case, his neighbors didn't do that. They doubted him. They were upset because Jesus healed him on a day that they said was holy, and so they kept pushing, they kept questioning him. They could take him to another group to interrogate him even more. They ask other religious leaders, they ask his parents, they come back to him, and they ask him the same questions all over again, and it turned into a heated debate about who Jesus is. They called Jesus a false prophet. They called Jesus a sinner. And they wanted the former blind man to agree. And I love what he says here when they want him to agree that Jesus is a sinner. In John 9, verse 25, it says, he replied, "Whether he's a sinner or not, I don't know. One thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see." See, here's what he's saying. Look, guys, there's a lot I don't understand, but I know this. I've never seen colors, or watched children play, or seen the sunset, or watched the wind blow the trees. I've never looked into the eyes of my parents, but now I can. And I can do that because this man Jesus didn't treat me like I was damaged goods. I can't explain it, but I know what happened. I had problems, and through his power, he healed me, and now I can see. You know, there's a lot I don't know, but I know that before I met him, I could not see. I met him, and now I can see. That's what he was saying. That night at that Bible study, when I had to give my story, I'd memorized no scriptures. I'd never spoken in front of a group of people about spiritual things. I was really intimidated, but I went on and told about what Jesus had done in my life, about what my life was like a few weeks prior to that, and how in one day I accepted the power of Jesus and everything changed in my life. Essentially what I said was, I was one way, and I met Jesus, and now I'm different. And they all listened. And I remember later that night thinking, I like that. I could do that again. Every single one of you have that same potential to tell that kind of story. To simply say, I was one way, then I met Jesus, and now I'm another way. I was blind, but now I see. That's all you need to know. What if you had to fill in those two blanks? I was blank, and now I'm blank. I mean, how would you do it? I mean, what if you said, I was an angry person, and now I found peace. I was stressed out, a control freak, but now I'm learning joy. I was hopeless and depressed. Now I'm full of hope. I was full of bitterness, and now I'm finding forgiveness. I was abused, and now I'm loved. It was my way, and now I live his way. I was full of fear, and now I live full of faith. I was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. That's what the man was saying. And if you've ever been put on the spot, or if you ever are put on the spot, now you can say, I was this, and now I'm that, all because of Jesus. That's what this man born blind did. And he lived happily ever after. Well, not yet. His problems just kept coming. Because he tells him that he believes Jesus is from God. And a day that started with the problem of him being blind, the problem of his own neighbors doubting him, ends up having this happen. In John 9, verse 34, it says this: "You were steeped in sin at birth. How dare you lecture us?" And they threw him out. I mean, this guy can't catch a break. Nobody believes him, and now they kicked him out of town. He's discovering what we all need to. Not everyone will trust in Jesus to bring power in the midst of our problems. Not everyone will do that. And the ones who don't won't fully understand those of us who do. There's a lot going on in our world. Things we don't know. We don't know how they'll play out. Things we don't know how to answer. And what if we realize that we don't have all the answers? Know this: problems will always be in front of us, but Jesus will always be willing to work within us. Always. I know that's the answer. Give Jesus room to work in the hearts of people and watch them come together. You have a disagreement with somebody? Give Jesus room to work in your heart and theirs and watch what happens. So the blind guy's been thrown out of town, and this next verse brings all of us hope, no matter who you are. Listen what happens in John 9, verse 35. Jesus heard they had thrown him out, and when he found him. Now, I want to stop right there so we can grasp what's happening. He was thrown out. And what did Jesus do? He went looking for him. What do you think he'll do for us when we've lost our way, when we're hurt, when we're confused, when we're alone? He'll come find us. Say that out loud. Jesus will come find me, no matter what. And as soon as Jesus finds this man who had been kicked out of his town, listen what happens in the rest of John 9, verse 35 through 38. Jesus heard that they'd thrown him out. And when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" "Who is he, sir?" the man asked. "Tell me so that I may believe in him." And Jesus said, "You have now seen him. In fact, he is the one speaking to you." Then the man said, "Lord, I believe," and he worshiped him. Jesus showed up in the middle of this guy's problems, and he displayed power, and this guy believed in Jesus. You may not be able to complete the sentence, "I was this, but now I'm that." You may have nothing to put in those blanks because you've never surrendered your life to Christ. You've never said, "Lord, I believe." And if you're ready for that, click on the live prayer tab and somebody's going to guide you through the start of your story with Jesus. And if you're watching this on playback or one of the on-demand times, just contact us and we're here to serve you. Now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of the guy born blind. What do you think he did for the rest of his life every time he faced a problem? He would have probably gone to Jesus for the answer, for the truth, and for the restoration. What if we did that? I mean, look, there's a lot going on around us. A lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of confusion, a lot of division, a lot of people saying, how do we fix all that? And I don't have all the answers, but I know who has the power to heal and to make us new. Look, we must realize in our lives and in our world, any answer other than the gospel and grace of Jesus Christ will not last. Only his will. What if we all led people toward that? Starting with me. I don't know a lot, but I do know that the power of Christ heals. I was lost and now I'm found. I was one way and now I'm another. That way, when we get our chance to talk or type and the spotlight is on us in our sphere of influence, we can say, there's a lot I don't know and a lot of answers I don't have. All I know is that I was blind and now I see because of Jesus. What would our world look like if we all lived that way? Let's go find out.
You know, when tensions are high, it's easier to identify the things that make us different than the things that draw us together. And no one knew this really like Jesus. I mean, it was Jesus who gathered together 12 men who were nothing like each other. Several would have been mortal enemies were it not for their relationship through Jesus. And so just before leaving earth, Jesus has a conversation and shares a meal with these men that would forever solidify the relationship that they shared together and the relationship that all believers have in common. And it's not what you think. It's not something that we get from the outside and bring in. It's what Jesus actually places inside of us, himself. And so just before going to the cross, Jesus takes a piece of bread and he breaks it. He gives it to all of his disciples and he tells them, "Take and eat. Something of me will now reside in you forever. Do this in remembrance of me." And after supper, he took a cup, kind of like this, and he passed it around to all of his disciples and he said, "Take and drink and do this in remembrance of me." And despite all of their differences from that day forward, they shared a moment in time, an act of remembrance that would forever unite them. They were united by the sacrifice, the love, the redemption, and the blood of Jesus and Jesus alone. And today, you and I get to share in that moment as well. And wherever you are today, I want to encourage you to go ahead and take a piece of bread and to take a cup of juice or wine, just like you see here, and to join in the same act that the disciples shared in that day. Take and eat and remember the body of Christ. And remember the blood of Jesus poured out for you, the blood that unites us not only with Jesus, but with everyone who calls on the name of God. Hey, thanks for joining us today at Lifepointe Online. Make sure to check out one of our Lifepointe lobbies at the link on the screen, or you can find the link also in our chat window if you're there. Thank you for being here. Don't just come back next week. Come back and invite some friends to join you. We'll see you then.